Hi, welcome to GetGeeky.com's How to Buy a Domain Name. You can come over and visit me at GetMeGeeky.com. This is Lauren, and I'm going to be doing a little webcast today on how to buy a domain name. I also put together a blog post to complement this, and just depends on what type of learner you are, whether you want to read through the steps or just review this screencast. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to cover what is a domain, how to pick your domain, how to buy your domain, and follow up post-purchase, which is really just talking about after you purchase your domain, you may need to go through the steps to connect it to your web server. And we're not going to go over that too in depth, but just set you down the right path so you know what to do next. So, what is a domain? This may be pretty familiar to most of you, but the domain is www.pickledpinkjars.com. So I am making pickles and I'm putting them in these totally funky, cool pink jars. So that's the domain name I've chosen. A point of confusion for a lot of people is what's the difference between a domain and a URL. The URL just means that it includes the HTTP colon // back in the day. We had to include that when we were going to a website, and it's been a while now, but now you can just start with the www dot and it will take you that. And in fact, a lot of times you can just start with the pickled pink jars and it will take you that way. But it's also, once you kind of get all that, it's really a URL. So just to clarify. All right, so now the other big thing is what really is what is the purpose of a domain? And this is a little bit of a confusing point for a lot of people, but the domain name is sort of a bridge between the person and the web server that they're really trying to get to. I think it's helpful to use this analogy of a house. So just like a house has an address of 123 Mays Street, then a house also has a legal description. So it may be something like in Sherwood Forest Division, subdivision, that you are lot number 35. So your legal description is more your actual placement in the subdivision. So you would not really want to tell people, hey, my address is subdivision Sherwood Forest, lot number 35, just pop that on in the mail. I don't think that you would receive much mail. So this right here is not really a good way for people to communicate with you. This is. So coming over to the website, this website actually has an address that looks something like this, 68.97.69.1. This is called your IP address. So similar situation in that you really wouldn't want to say to your customers, hey, yeah, you want to order something from me, just come on to 68.97.69.1 and shoot in your order. So instead, we've built these domain names, and what those do is they sort of just connect to that IP address. So so then you purchase this domain name and it's going to connect you to that IP address below. It makes it a lot more user friendly and easier to remember, etc. So that's going to connect you to the same site as the IP address right here would. So that is the true purpose of a domain name, and ultimately that's just bringing you to the web server, which is the holder of the website information, and we'll go over more of that in a different webcast video very soon. So hope that helps clarify a little bit about a domain name, what it is. So now that we've done that, let's go on over and talk about buying a domain name. All right, so now we're over here at GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy is a place to buy domain names, but it is a very popular place to buy them. So now I'm going to search for that domain name that I really, really want. I have my heart set on it. This is the one for me. I've thought about even getting stuff printed with it so far, but thank goodness I didn't. So let's go ahead and check out. I'm going to do, I'm making pickles and I'm putting them in pink jars. So I'm going to look for pickledpink.com. That's it. That's the one for me. Oh no, Pickled Pink is already taken. Who else is doing that? Well, you never know why somebody else has gotten to the domain name. It could be a completely different business, completely unrelated to anything you're looking at. You can view who owns this domain name. If you were really, really dead set on getting it, you could potentially go to the person and offer to purchase it from them. One problem there is that typically once you've shown your hand that you really want the domain name, you are at a disadvantage. So the seller realizes that you want it badly, so they may try and take you for a lot more money than the $10 or $12 that this is gonna cost you. So if you're anxious and you just really want to get the name you want, you can try getting creative and thinking outside the box a little bit and just seeing if you can come up with something better that you can go ahead and purchase today. So let's go back. Okay, let's try something else. And to back up for a second, a lot of people kind of say, well, what about just using a .NET or something? A .NET is okay in certain circumstances, but typically you really want to try and go for that .com, just because when people, they will remember the address and they almost always stick a .com on the end of it, because that's just what they're used to. An exception to that is with a .org, but a .org typically you are a nonprofit organization, so you usually don't go with a .org unless you're really a nonprofit, so you wouldn't really want to go that direction. So let's just think outside the box. We're making jars, so let's do pickledpinkjars.com. Oh, great. Awesome. It's available. So let's go ahead and just add this. I'm going to go ahead and put it over here. Continue to registration. All right, now we come up with this lovely little window here. This is basically GoDaddy's upsell. You can buy all the domain names if you're really concerned that someone's going to kind of swoop in and be a competition to you and try and grab a different, similar domain name. If you have that type of business, this may be the right purchase for you. But for a lot of the micro businesses that I work with, this is probably not going to be a benefit to spend this sort of extra money. Definitely gonna have to be a judgment call on your own, but just think about it and think about the possibility of anyone really needing those domain names before you go ahead and make this purchase. So I'm gonna go ahead and say no thanks. I don't think it's gonna be an issue for me. So we get to this next window here. One thing right here I want you to note is that you can add pickledpinkjars.com, the address. It's the U at, so they're basically talking about the email address. I'm going to recommend against this. You can add this in using your hosting server later down the road if you decide to, and you also probably want to look at something more from like the Gmail or Yahoo realm of things. I'm a big fan of Gmail. You can still take your domain name and use a Gmail account and kind of hide it under a domain name, so it looks custom like that. But the great news about Gmail versus a lot of other hosting servers and stuff is their number one thing is not email, it's hosting your website, and therefore they're not as good at email. Gmail really, they do email well, meaning that they fight against spam really well. They stay up really well. They don't have mailbox quota issues. So just probably something to consider when you decide whether you're going to go ahead and get that email address or not. But obviously totally up to you. So I'm already a customer, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of sign in here. And then we're going to get to something like this. Here's a domain name, so that looks pretty good. 5 years. 5 years is a long time. 1, maybe 2 years if you really want to, but you're going to get a lot of emails reminding you when you need to re-register, so it's not it's pretty hard to let it just drop out. If it's a new business, you may want to just do 1 or 2 years and see how things go. If you're a very established business and you're just getting a website for the first time, perhaps a 5 year isn't a bad idea. The certification over here, typically not a big deal. Again, if you're sort of just a small micro business running, it verifies that you are the business that you say you are. So someone more like Coke.com or a celebrity name, RyanGosling.com is gonna, you certify that you're really the business behind it. Not as big of a deal for just a small micro business coming up. And if you do that though, if you just really want to, go right ahead and you'll get a little certification sticker, etc., saying you're the real deal. So on to the next line, hosting these domains elsewhere. 9 times out of 10, you probably are. You're probably going to go with a hosting service, which is a whole other web discussion here. But it's going to be like a Bluehost or Media Temple or one of the other ones out there. Those are my 2 favorite. So here you'll go to set name servers. Now, if you don't know what server you're going to use yet, you just want to get that domain name because you just have this great idea, this is totally fine. You can always go back and put these in later. You do not need to do this now. But if you were to know that you were going to go through, for example, Bluehost, we're going to come over here, we do a little search for Bluehost DNS, which is your domain name server, which is basically the communication piece that connects your domain with these servers that your website actually lives on. And this is going to tell you right here, you've got, these are the name servers. So we're going to go ahead and copy and put this in here. The way this is actually supposed to work is .bluehost.com and then ns2.bluehost.com. Okay, so now you've got the name servers in there, and that's going to go ahead and basically right off the bat tell this domain, hey, these name servers are, Bluehost is where I'm going to host this website that I just bought the domain name for. Again, if you do not know this information, you do not need to put it in now. Okay, now we get to another thing. Again, I'm a big fan of the standard registration, unless you have reason to believe that you need something more. If you are just a small micro business just getting started, 9 times out of 10, you do not need this extra protection. It's just an upsell. GoDaddy just trying to find another way to make a couple bucks. So it's probably not necessary. The next thing. So we don't have email. We're not going to add any more email addresses, and we are not going to add hosting either. There's better hosting servers out there, and GoDaddy is great for domain names, but I do recommend some other hosting servers. So none of these add things, and then it's all right. So now it's just going to take you in here and ask you to check out. From this point on, it's basically just payment information. So we're going to go ahead and pay that through, pretend like we did, and then I'm going to come back here and show you how you would set those domain name servers if you didn't do it during the purchase process.